In this session, let's try to understand segmentation. Primarily, it's a marketing terminology, but I can very well use in various other worlds as well. And there are different kinds of procedures that are available in majority of my statistical packages like R as to how we do this segmentation. Right? So first of all, we need to understand what is the segmentation, why do we do it, when do we do it, etc. Now this is where I want to look at three main activities here. But let me tell you, this session does not focus much on the R part, unlike many of the other sessions that I'm taking up as a part of this particular course. So compared to that, we are talking about basically the philosophy behind segmentation, right? The various important things that I have to keep in mind when I'm doing a segmentation, and the two major types of segmentation, right? Without going into the R aspects or technical aspects of them, I'm trying to cover the management focus of both the clustering versus the classification, two different types of segmentations that we think of. So just getting into the major philosophy behind segmentation, I have a big list of customers, right? Here, why only customers? I can have a big list of products, or I can have a big list of funds. I have a big list of stocks, whatever it is, right? So field wise, I have a big list of my employees. So you can take examples from the world of marketing, from finance, from HR, etc. I want to find the groups. I want to do some kind of grouping in this data where the groups actually differ in some important ways. I can understand that there is a significant difference that should come across the groups in many important ways that are associated with my business. Either it could be with respect to product interest. This set of customers will like this particular product versus this set of guys will not like. This set of funds will generate more return versus this set of funds which do not. Or I can look at with respect to market participation. Okay, this kind of this set of customers are going to buy this product more heavily versus this set of customers might show a much lesser inclination towards buying this product. So I have a big database of customers, I have a big database of stocks, which I really want to create groups out of that so that I can really understand what is the, can I really differentiate them on some counts which are more and more relevant to my business. The more I am able to do that, I am able to find the groups of customers, I can do the strategic decision making much better. I can see which product needs to be promoted to this particular group of customers. How can I really define the products for each group of customers? What are the kind of opportunities where the market exists for me? How do I position a particular product? All these kind of things I can very well concentrate. If I am a marketer, I can concentrate on what is the positioning I can do for that particular product. What is the pricing I can do for that particular set of customers? Can I do a differentiated pricing? Can I do a promotional strategies? Can I differ in the promotional strategies? The actual product definition itself, can I change? I can think of different kinds of strategic choices. The moment I am able to identify the groups which behave differently, then my task is very clear. How do I relate this particular group to my business objectives? Does this group differ with respect to the other group in any of my business aspects? Now here, one thing let me tell you, finding the groups is very easy. We have so many segmentation algorithms that are available in any of the statistical packages, whether it is SPSS, SAS, R, whatever the names you call, you have so many segmentation algorithms that are available. So dividing the data into groups is not a big difficulty, but finding out the real actionable business outcomes. So, right? How do I really differentiate within these groups with respect to my business objectives? So, what is the difference between segment 1 and segment 2 with respect to the buying behavior? How do I differentiate segment 1, segment 2, segment 3 with respect to the performance in an appraisal? So, linking them to my business outcomes and really coming out with what is the characteristic of this particular segment and how this segment is differentiated with respect to the other segments as a part of my business need is the most difficult aspect with respect to segmentation. I have to really ensure that on some basis or the other, the outcome is meaningful for my business need. So when I am saying sales will be different again across segment 1 versus segment 2, our profitability is different across segment 1 versus segment 2, or the inclination to buy is different across segment 1 and segment 2. So there should be different kinds of business scenarios that I need to identify and see that these business scenarios are really differentiated across the various segments. So that becomes the most challenging aspect. It's not the data, it's not doing a segmentation, it's not the mathematical or statistical algorithms that makes things difficult. They can be easily identified. There are hundreds of algorithms we'll be seeing later when we take up our session on segmentation. So we could really see that there are tens of algorithms that are available which can do the segmentation work. But finding the actionable business outcomes is the most difficult aspect here. So when you have created the segments by doing some kind of segmentation algorithm, always ask these questions to yourself. What would you do about them? Would you like to target products according to the segment? Would you like to do the pricing differently to different segments? What are you going to do with those segments? Have a clear-cut answer to this question. Would anyone use these segments in your organization? For what purpose? If so, they are going to use it. Did you really find some kind of business outcomes which are significantly different across the segment? Very, very important point for us to really assess whether the segmentation has done a good job for us. Any of the segmentation algorithms that we have got in, they have really done a good job for us or not. And let me tell you, now you may be asking, if there are hundreds of algorithms, why do I need hundreds of them? Can't I use one of them? Or can't I know which one is the best out of these hundreds of algorithms which can do the classification which can suit my business purpose? Let me tell you once for all again, there are hundreds of algorithms. There is nothing called the best. There is no all-purpose algorithm. So I cannot say that this algorithm will fit the best to this kind of a data. This algorithm is the most preferable one compared to the other one when I'm evaluating this kind of a data. There is nothing like that, which means I need to have an understanding of all the hundreds of algorithms. I may have to run all the hundreds of algorithms. Based on that, see which algorithm has done the classification in such a way that I can really find a differentiation in my business output. So that solution would be the best possible solution from my business perspective. So which means you have to really understand that there is no way to determine in advance which approach will work the best. So that it is purely an iterative approach. You are going one after the other. You are trying to run all your algorithms one after the other. Successively, you are doing one after the other. See which one is improving the overall business need. and the one that you find the most influencing your business need would be your shortlisted algorithm for doing the clustering of your or segmentation of your customers more and more effectively. So always remember, it's not a one-time approach. I've done the segmentation analysis on my data and it's over. It's a kind of an iterative process. It keeps changing, and I have to really evaluate all the possible algorithms that I have at hand. But each of the algorithm, the way I evaluate it is compare with respect to my business objective. So always think of segmentation as slicing a pie. There are infinite number of ways of slicing it. So whatever the solution as an analyst that you are designing, look at the data that is available to you, what kind of data, what kind of variables that you are gathering, what kind of groupings that you can do on this data, right? What are the possible, again there could be infinite number of groupings that you can do, infinite combinations of groups you can create. So what are the possible groupings, and based on that possible groupings that are coming out, what are the business complications that might be addressed. The solution should be determined, solution should be designed by keeping all these things in mind. So whatever the solution that you are designing, it should clearly inform the business decision, it should influence the business decision. So because the segments that you are creating, they should be real differentiators in terms of your business variables so that you can make your strategic decisions quite effectively. But never get into the trap that a solution which is more stronger statistically will be the best solution for the business. It can never be the case. Sometimes a solution could be statistically strong, right? The p values could be much lesser. I could see that there could be a very high influencing variables in the solution, but the model may become very complex that I cannot even implement it in my business context. Whereas in some cases the solution could be simple, weaker statistically, but yes, I can at least implement it in my business context. So even here our focus should be on this aspect as well. So if I have to define the segmentation from the business perspective, it's a kind of an iterative process. It's not a one-time activity. I'm getting into data collection, analysis. So these two are iterative steps. I keep collecting the data, I keep analyzing that. First of all, I need to know what important data that should be collected. That itself first take as much of dummy data as possible. Based on that, do some kind of analysis. By doing that, at least I will be able to narrow down on what data is good for collection, what data can be omitted. Then I am refining the solution by shortlisting on what data I have to collect. I have created some solution, refined it, tested it. So there is a kind of iterative interpretation process that is happening. I run this solution with my various business stakeholders to really see that the results that are coming as a part of my segmentation analysis are more realistic and more implementable to the real business solution. So within this context, there are two major aspects of segmentation. One is the clustering and classification. They are typically called as the primary branches of statistical learning. When I use the word statistical learning, I mean learning from the data. We are creating some kind of knowledge repository from the data. That is what we are calling as statistical learning. So we are creating some kind of models. We are fitting some kind of models based on the data. And based on the models that are fitted, we are trying to do our learning process. So the only difference between the two is classification goes as a part of the supervised learning, whereas clustering goes into unsupervised learning. And just to differentiate between the two again, when I use the word supervised learning, the model is created where the outcome is known. So all your regression models where you know the outcome, right? Whether it is binary logistic regression or simple linear regression, hierarchical linear regression, whatever it is, these all are the procedures where the outcome status is known, right? We are trying to predict that outcome from the set of independent variables. This is what goes as a part of all your regression models, right? We say some outcome variable tilde the independent variable. So the dependent variable value is known and we have a set of independent variables. So all that goes as a part of supervised learning. So your classification models also go as a part of supervised learning, where your major objective is predict the likelihood of response. Based on the various independent variables, I am trying to predict the likelihood of a response. So that kind of solution that I design, that kind of segmentation that I do, where I am trying to link with a dependent variable, I call them as classification based segmentation. Whereas on the other side, when I talk about clustering, it's a purely unsupervised learning. I do not know the outcome grouping. So there is no outcome variable. There is nothing called dependent variable here. But I'm trying to discover the groups based on the structure in the data. So we typically use something called distances. So based on the input variables, based on the predictor variables only, we try to discover the groups in the outcomes. Instead of, I don't know whether it should be one group, two groups, three groups, based on the closeness or the distances associated with the various input variables, we try to discover those groups as a part of our outcome. So basically some of the things that we are trying to observe, okay, I have my data. Do I know that there are some groupings within this data? So are there groups that differ in how and when they respond to offers? Marketing wise, okay, this is the whole database. But can I really identify that this set of customers respond in one way, this group of customers respond in some other way? Can I really identify the different groups that are present in the data, which can really differ across their response to a particular set of offers? Now, if I am able to discover that, I want to know what are the characteristics of that group. How can I really understand which group of customers respond positively, which group of customers negatively respond? And the main objective is to discover the groups so that I can derive more and more newer insights about the customers. That is what happens as a part of clustering analysis. I don't have a solution, I don't have an outcome. I'm just trying to identify the groupings in the data based on the attributes that are associated with my variables, so that I can have a kind of a new learning about my data in a much more effective manner. So we have to, while understanding the whole world of segmentation, we have to understand that both classification models as well as clustering models, both of them are more and more beneficial. Both of them are complementary approaches to each other. They are not killing each other. They are not mutually exclusive kind of model. Because first I will use the clustering models to identify the groups, and based on these groups I can really check out whether this particular group is responding to a particular buying behavior. So I am doing a classification based on the clustering, and so they can really complement each other quite comfortably. But sometimes I keep getting a question saying what variables I should take while building a clustering solution or a classification solution. Let me tell you simply, that is your headache. You are a business expert. So you should have a choice based on your business need, based on your strategy, based on the data that is available. You really choose what variables based on which I need to do the segmentation. But at least when I talk about the statistical tools, or when I talk about the techniques which I am going to use in R, they are the most, out of these various variables that you have chosen, I can very well assess the most important ones where I have a specific method, variable importance method, Through this method, I can really make an assessment of which variables are most important compared to the other. So that way I can use both clustering and classification as alternative solutions for the segmentation, or complementary solutions for doing the segmentation of my customers, of the stocks, of the funds, of the employees more and more effectively. So this is what I wanted to cover as a part of this session. I did not cover anything associated with R or any tool in this, because I wanted to give a good clarity in terms of how we really differentiate between clustering and classification, and what is the major purpose behind doing a segmentation. If you have any further queries regarding the same, you can get back to me by giving me a call on the number that I have provided below, or you can send in an email at vamsidhar@pacegurus.com. Thanks a lot for listening to this session. Thank you very much.